Today we're with two special guests, both from London. There is a production going on right now of The Tempest. It's in its third part right now. The fourth part comes out relatively soon. And it's a very interesting co-production between America and London. And today we have two of the stars, both from The Tempest, the radio play, and also Harry Potter. Jamie and Thomas, is this the first time you've worked together?
Is The Tempest the first time we've worked together?
Right.
No, it's not. No, Jamie and I share a dressing room in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in London, and so this is the second time we've got to work together, which is absolutely wonderful.
What brought you to The Tempest?
Well, I went to drama school with Sean Haggerty, who is the director and founder of the company, the theatre company. And we did 2 years together at drama school. And he very brilliantly started his Shakespeare company a couple of years ago, called Shakespeare Act. And they did a brilliant production of Hamlet in Jersey City last year, and we're planning to do Macbeth this year. Then obviously COVID hit, and so that sort of put paid to that. So Sean, just the genius that he is, was like, well, I'm going to still make Shakespeare accessible to the masses. So let's do an audio version of some Shakespeare plays, and he asked me to do Richard II, which we recorded back in July. And then he said, would you be up for doing The Tempest? And I said, of course, I'd do anything with him. And I just thought immediately of Tom for the part of Trinculo, which is sort of kind of like the two Stefano and Trinculo are kind of like a double act. And I thought there's no better actor to do that with. And so I mentioned Tom to Tom about it, and Tom to Sean, and they had a chat, and the rest is history. So
you don't play Prospero?
No, I'm not Prospero. I did this audition at drama school. My mum was Scottish, and I did this audition that Sean saw, and he was like, that I think is the character for Stefano. So could you do Stefano, and if you do it, could you do it with that that character in that Scottish character in mind? And so yeah, so I'm not Prospero. A wonderful actor called David Hargreaves is Prospero, and is doing an incredible job.
Now, when you say Jersey City, you're talking England, correct?
No.
Or New Jersey.
New Jersey. Yep. Exactly.
So
yeah.
wait, how did this cross production come across?
So I mean, Tom, do you want to talk about it, mate? Because I've been doing a lot of talking.
No, it's fine. I mean, you'll know more than I will. But yeah, Sean, who Jamie was talking about, is from Jersey City, I believe. So so that's where he's based. So that's kind of our connection to Jersey City. As Jamie said, he was linked to it through Sean, and he'd worked with Sean before, and they trained at drama school, and then we got put in touch that way. So I had a Zoom call with Sean. He was in his place in Jersey, and I was here by the sea near London, and we just had a chat, and yeah, thankfully Sean decided that I was up for the role, and we've had an absolute ball ever since.
Now, you both have things in your resume that I find very, very interesting. Thomas, since you're here, we'll start with you. Love Story, the musical, what's that?
Yeah, so Love Story was, obviously, I'm sure you've heard of the film, yes. And I was involved in the workshop for Love Story, the musical, which was quite a big hit here in London. Unfortunately, they wrote my part out of it when it came to transferring to the West End. Never mind. Always the workshop, never the bride. Yeah, same thing happened to me with Matilda. They gave my part to a 12-year-old. Hey, it's fine. Finally, I got to be in the Tempest, so no one else nicked that role before me.
Well, you're also in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Absolutely.
Jamie, you did Penny Dreadful. Who did you play in Penny Dreadful?
So I played, again, a Scot. I played this chap called Balfour, who was in Bedlam, well, was in an insane asylum, and Dr. Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll are trying to work out the best way to treat him and they have different ideas of how to do it.
Oh, I remember that part. Okay.
So yeah, I spent my entire time tied to a chair with sort of horrendous contraptions around my face and being injected into my eye and all this kind of stuff. But it was just wonderful.
We're dealing with COVID-19 both in America and in London. Can you talk about what it's like right now in London with COVID-19?
It's a strange time because we've kind of got to a stage where things were starting to kind of reopen and life was getting back to a certain kind of normality. Everything except theatre, unfortunately. So that was kind of frustrating because it kind of seemed like London was kind of getting on with things, but theatre was still very much closed. However, now we've had this second wave and these new restrictions and new lockdowns. So yeah, London is kind of reverting back to how it was, not quite as bad as it was during lockdown. You know, most things are still open, but we're restricted about how sociable we can be. You know, everything's groups of 6. You can't mix households and things like that. So
really,
yeah,
they strict it down to households as well.
Yeah, indoors it is. Outdoors, I think you can mix households. To be honest, we are so confused about the rules over here because they just change and they're so vague. Yeah, don't get me onto how it's being dealt with because I'll be here for hours. I'm sure Jamie will agree with me. It's not been dealt with particularly well, in my opinion.
Different parts of the United Kingdom are on different levels of alert and lockdown. So on Friday, Wales is going to be sort of locked down properly.
Fully locked down, isn't it? Schools, everything.
Yeah. Wow.
I think 19 days. Northern Ireland's different. I think they're going to go to level 5, or they're thinking about doing that. Scotland's different. So yeah, you wake up and really have no idea sort of where you stand, really.
It would be quite nice to be shipwrecked on an island completely free of COVID, wouldn't it, Jamie?
So that's how the Tempest comes into play.
Absolutely. Wouldn't that be nice?
Thomas, since you're here, let's talk about your role. What did you bring to the role? What do you bring to the role? And what would you like people to take away from your role?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. So Trinculo and Stefano have long been my favourite roles in The Tempest. I love The Tempest. Yeah, fully aware of my casting bracket. Those were always the two drunken clowns were always the ones that I knew I'd be kind of put in the casting bracket as. So those were always the roles that I'd loved and wanted to play. And yeah, I mean, we are some sort of much welcome comedy, I guess, within The Tempest. There's such amazing themes running through The Tempest, and then it hits us, and it's very easy, I guess, to kind of look at us as though look at Trinculo and Stefano as the kind of comedy relief, but it's also very dark. The plans that we come up with, it's pretty dark what we conjure up. But yeah, obviously we try and bring some comedy to it. And what was lovely is that, Jamie and I are genuinely in real life, absolutely, at least I hope I'm speaking on behalf of both of us, but are really wonderful friends, and it's, you know, it's really nice to kind of, there's a moment when we see each other. Obviously, you know, it's done over radio, but hopefully that reads and it comes across in the audio version. But there's a moment where we see each other for the first time, thinking that each one had periled in the shipwreck, and I just love that because we hadn't seen each other for so long, and we were kind of in this virtual room together for the first time in a really long time. And I really think you can hear it when we're screaming at each other, like, "You're here!" Yeah, it was just lovely. And there's moments like that it was just really lovely to kind of be with my mate again.
Yeah, totally.
Jamie, the same question.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, it was, and it's just been so wonderful to be back with actors and directors and sound engineers and sound designers and just brilliant human beings, getting to grips with beautiful language, and having, you know, we'd have Zoom, very, very brief, but we'd have Zoom rehearsals, and it was just wonderful to be, you know, to see Tom there, you know, on the screen, and Sean, and then there would be, you know, another friend, Jonathan, who I was also at drama school with, playing Caliban brilliantly, and it was just wonderful to be, you know, in a virtual room rehearsing again. And then at the end of the rehearsal period, we had to the entire company had to sort of be there to do sort of like Foley or like sound effects, or, you know, jumping off a ship, or the noise of you being drunk, and it was just wonderful to have all of us there, and, you know, some in LA, some in Australia, some in New York, and
I love that. I think that's the best part of virtual theater right now.
It's so wonderful, and I'm just so grateful to Sean and his team to have enabled that, and to because it's tough, you know, sort of trying to have something to get up for in the morning at the moment, and see that there's something that can fuel you and feed you, and it was just wonderful to know that at, you know, 8 o'clock on Monday night I'm going to be having an absolute ball rehearsing with dear friends and amazing actors.
Now, this production, why was it broken into 4s?
Tom, I don't know.
Yeah, I think with it being an audio version, I think I think it's really clever that it's been broken up into 4 parts. There's an awful lot you have to concentrate on in the Tempest, and I think, you know, with you not having the visual side of it, there's an awful lot to take in, and I think it's split up into 4 really perfect segments. You know, to make it kind of bite-sized, I suppose, and it's yeah, and it's with it just being a week apart, it's something to look forward to each week, and yeah, so we're on episode 3, and then the very last episode airs. Is it this Thursday?
I think it's the 22nd.
22nd, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is at 7 p.m. I believe your time. We've
Right.
got to wait about 3 hours later, but.
And I think it's just a really, really nice. It's a nod back, not a nod. It really is. It's a sort of, it's looking back at, you know, when people would sit around the radio for an episode of something. Whereas now you can just, you know, download the entire box set and binge the whole thing. I think it's really lovely that there is, at this time, there is a real feeling of blitz spirit of like, right, on Thursday night, we're going to sit around, we're going to listen to this episode because we listened to the first one last week, and it's Thursday again, brilliant, and we can listen to it now. And I think that's really lovely, that it is a real sort of episodic radio play. It's like, yeah, come on, you know, and I'm sort of, yeah, I'm sort of very proud of Sean and the team for doing that.
I think it's a great idea. I think that we need to come back to roots of things. And I think that this brings us to that. Are you thinking of doing something else after The Tempest? Is there something slated for that? Is there an idea of that?
Sean hasn't mentioned. I mean, I am sure that his brain is working overtime on the next play he wants to do, and I certainly would love to. I'd jump at the chance to work with the team again and with Tom.
Absolutely.
And I think and we so enjoyed doing the comedy that would be a wonderful thing to get our teeth into again.
Yeah.
It's I mean, and there are so many plays that Sean could tackle that hopefully I haven't been fired.
This question is to both of you.
Okay.
Is there a role or roles that you would like to see in your future?
Wow. Well, I feel a bit strange saying this in front of Jamie, although he knows this already. I will never get to play Hamlet. However, Hamlet is my absolute dream role. Jamie is well known for playing Hamlet over here. He was he did a production of Hamlet in Bristol. It was Bristol, wasn't it?
Was it?
To huge acclaim. In fact, he was even in The Guardian as under the top 10 best Hamlets of all time.
Wow.
So this is the kind of caliber of person that we have in The Tempest. So I was incredibly honoured to be tackling Shakespeare with Jamie. So I feel kind of strange saying that in front of him. It's a pipe dream because that will never happen. So let's make something a little bit more realistic. I would love to. Do you know what? I love Spamalot, the musical Spamalot, and I would love to play anything in Spamalot because I just adore Monty Python. So that's one thing that I'm very much kind of, yeah, I'd like to see that on my CV at some point. Jamie, over to you.
I mean, but I think you'd be an astonishing Hamlet, and I think that could be, that's hopefully that'll be in the pipeline. You'd be in. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I mean, Richard II was a part that I discovered at drama school and fell in love with, as did Sean. We both did audition speeches from it, different ones, and realised we had a mutual love for it. And so doing that recently was definitely a box ticked. I don't know. I'm sort of I'm just grateful for any part that comes along, it was just so lovely to do some comedy. One of my first Shakespeare, when I left drama school, one of my first jobs at the Royal Shakespeare Company was playing flute in A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I just
Which we've both done.
Which we've both done, exactly. And I hadn't played comedy really pretty much ever since. I as Penny Dreadful shows, I play people who are traumatized or kill kids or have I kill kids or have my kids killed. So it's nice. It's nice to do something, although as Tom highlights, the comedy vein of the parts that we play in Tempest are also incredibly dark. But yeah, I don't know. I'm up for doing anything. Weddings, bar mitzvahs.
And my last question to both of you again. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like our audience to know about either you or The Tempest?
Wow.
In other words, you get to have the last say.
I'm incredibly proud of what Sean has achieved, and to be bringing accessible Shakespeare for free into people's homes, I think is incredibly laudable, and I'm very, very proud of him, and I'm very, very proud of what the whole company has achieved. I think it is I think listening to it, it's so atmospheric and vibrant and understandable. I think schools, you know, are gonna sort of lap this up. So yeah, I don't know, Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess for anyone that's listening, I guess I would ask them to think of what's gone into it, not, you know, way beyond the actors. If there's anything that's kind of been highlighted through this whole pandemic that we've been going through, it's that there are so many people in our industry, like hugely important people, that literally make productions happen, all of whom we've all been kind of left behind, certainly over here, and it's really highlighted that. And I think a lot of people have been made to realize that over here. You know, it's not, you know, there's huge campaigning for our industry over here, but I think a lot of people who aren't in the industry have realized, oh my goodness, yeah, you've got the sound designers and the sound team and the lighting team and the wigs team and the wardrobe and the dressers and the front of house and all these people. So I think that's a wonderful thing that's come out of it, is that it's really been highlighted what a huge ensemble it is, our entire industry. And this production is exactly the same. What the sound team that captured this, what they had to battle against. You know, we're all just sat in our garages with a microphone that we bought from a shop, and they have managed to capture this sound, and it's beautiful and clean, and they've edited it to perfection. And the producers that have brought us all together and scheduled time zones and fault storms and everything. So I guess, you know, if you're listening to this, obviously listen to what we're doing and the beautiful words of Shakespeare, but also have a little think of all the amazing people that have made the Tempest happen, not just those that you can hear.
I thank you both so much for being with us from London. Where are you both located at the moment?
I live in a place called Leigh-on-Sea, which is on the River Thames, just before it goes out into the North Sea. So it's east of London. So that's where I am.
Jamie?
I'm in southeast London, so I'm about 30-minute cycle ride from the West End. Yeah.
I thank you all for coming this distance